Hey there, and welcome to The Story So Far, the video series where we recap the plot of your favorite games to get you caught back up in time for the next installment. I'm Jake the Ashen Hollow, and I hope you're all doing fantastic. And if you're a fan of video games and the stories they tell, be sure to click on that subscribe button. Alrighty, let's not waste any more time and jump on into the story of The Last of Us. Our story begins on a night in the suburbs of Austin, Texas. A young girl named Sarah lies asleep on her couch, but is awakened when her father Joel returns from work. Joel joins Sarah on the couch and she gives him a watch that she got for his birthday. Father and daughter share a moment and then Sarah is back to being fast asleep. Joel carries his daughter up to her bedroom where she is later awakened once again, this time by a phone call from her Uncle Tommy. Tommy asks Sarah where her father is and that he needs to talk to him now, clearly in some sort of panic. But before Sarah can reply, the line is disconnected. She heads downstairs to look for her dad and finds him heading back inside from the back door and begins to load his gun. Joel tells her that there's something wrong with the neighbors, and it's then that their neighbor Jimmy bashes his way into their home and Joel is forced to shoot him. Tommy shows up and says that they gotta go, so they all jump into Tommy's truck and begin making their way towards the highway. Tommy tells Joel that the news is saying that it's happening all over the country, some sort of parasite infecting people and making them aggressive. As they approach the highway, they find it all backed up with cars. Apparently, everyone else had the same idea. So they try to cut their way through town, avoiding people fleeing on foot. But as they find their opening, their truck is T-boned by another vehicle. They pull themselves from Tommy's overturned truck, but it appears Sarah's leg is pretty badly hurt, so Joel has to carry her. They run and fight off attacking infecteds as they make their way into an empty bar on the outside of the highway, but the infected are hot on their trails. Tommy tells Joel to go ahead of him and that he'll hold off the infected and then meet them at the highway. So Joel and Sarah head out the back of the bar and make their way towards the highway.
It's okay, baby. We're safe. We're safe. Hey, we need help.
Stop!
Please. It's my daughter. I think her leg is broken.
Stop right there!
Okay. We're not sick.
Got a couple of civilians on the outer perimeter. Please advise.
Daddy, what about Uncle Tommy?
We're gonna get you to safety and go back for him, okay?
Sir, there's a little girl. But... Yes, sir.
Listen, buddy, we've just been through hell. Okay, we just need... Shit. Please don't. Oh, no. Sarah. Move your hands, baby. I know, baby, I know. Listen to me. I know this hurts, baby. You're gonna be okay, baby. Stay with me. All right, I'm gonna pick you up. I know, baby. I know it hurts. Come on, baby, please. I know, baby. I know. Sarah. Baby. Don't do this to me, baby. Don't do this to me, baby. Come on. No. No. No, 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 no. Please. 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 Please don't. Please.
As the screen fades to black, we begin to fast forward to 20 years later. We hear clips from the news and radio about the virus spreading worldwide and the vaccines for it failing, and something about a group called the Fireflies, claiming to be a group of militant freedom fighters leading attacks against the government and quarantine zone authorities. We resume our story 20 years later on a summer day in a Boston, Massachusetts quarantine zone. Joel receives a knock at his door and it's a woman named Tess, Joel's partner in crime as it were, as the two specialize in smuggling things in and out of quarantine zones. Tess is sporting a couple of new bruises on her face and tells Joel that she was jumped by a couple of guys sent after her by a man named Robert. Apparently, he had stolen a shipment of guns from them and knows that Joel and Tess are coming after him and tried to take them out first. But Tess says that she finally knows where Robert is hiding, so the pair take off to go pay him a little visit. As they're making their way through the military-controlled quarantine zone, they witness another Firefly attack at one of the checkpoints. which will make things more complicated as the military will shut down the rest of the checkpoints now, and Joel and Tess will have to make their way to Robert by going around the outside of the zone's perimeter. They make their way outside into the ruined and nature-consumed city, avoiding infected and donning their gas masks to avoid breathing in the spores of parasites in certain areas. As they continue making their way towards Robert's hideout, they discover that a woman named Marlene, one of the higher-ups in the Fireflies, is also looking for Robert. Tess and Joel finally make their way to the hideout, and after fighting through his men, corner Robert himself. They interrogate him about their missing guns, which Robert said he sold to the Fireflies. Tess kills him and tells Joel that now they have to go find a Firefly to get their guns back. But Marlene appears from around the corner and tells her that they won't have to look far. Marlene says the guns are hers because she paid for them, but they can earn them and then some by smuggling something out of the city for the Fireflies. It's then that the guards show up looking for Marlene, and so they'll have to continue this chat somewhere else. Marlene brings them to a room where she was hiding a young girl named Ellie, and tells them that she wants them to smuggle Ellie out of the city to the Capitol building where a group of Fireflies will await them. Tess says that she isn't agreeing to anything until she sees the guns. Marlene says that Tess can come with her back to her camp to see the guns while she gets patched up, and Ellie can stay with Joel so that Ellie doesn't have to risk crossing to the other side of town. Ellie begins to protest, asking Marlene how does she know these people, to which she replies she knew Joel's brother Tommy, and that he said if she was ever in a bind she could rely on Joel. Tess tells Joel to wait for her by the north tunnel and that she'll go see the guns and come meet him there. So Joel takes Ellie there and they small talk a little bit about how Ellie knows Marlene. She says that Marlene knew her mom and has been taking care of her for a while now, and that her parents have been gone for a long time. Joel tries to ask Ellie what the Fireflies even want with her, but she says she can't tell him. Tess shows up sometime later and tells Joel that there's a lot of merchandise and that they should do this job. So they begin sneaking out of the quarantine zone to get to the Capitol building. Unfortunately, they're spotted by some guards and held up. And as the guards start scanning them to see if they're infected, Ellie attacks them right after they scan her. A fight ensues, but the group comes out on top over the guards. They look at the scanner and it reveals that Ellie is infected. She quickly shows them a bite mark on her arm and tells them it was from 3 weeks ago. Tess tries to call bullshit, stating that everyone turns within 2 days. They're hesitant to believe Ellie, thinking that maybe Marlene is trying to set them up. Ellie continues to swear it was from 3 weeks ago, but more guards show up so they have to flee. After making their way through the guards and into the city, Tess asks Ellie what the plan was for her. Ellie tells her that Marlene said the Fireflies still have doctors looking for a cure, and said that she could be the answer they need for one. The group continues heading towards the faraway Capitol building, fighting their way through various types of infected along the way. Ellie explains that she was in a mall when she was bitten, that she'd like to sneak out and explore the city, and how Marlene thinks she's immune to the virus. Joel and Ellie have a moment of sorts on a rooftop while Ellie remarks about the view of the sunset, and we see Joel glance down at the watch Sarah got for him 20 years ago. I think in that moment he subconsciously realizes that Ellie reminds him of his own daughter. After they finally reach the Capitol building, they find that the Fireflies that were waiting for them have been killed.
No. No, no, no.
What happens now?
What are you doing, Tess?
Oh, God. Maybe they had a map or something to tell us where they were going.
How far are we gonna take
As
this?
far as it needs to go. Where was this lab of theirs?
Oh, she never said. She only mentioned that it was someplace out west.
What are we doing here? This is not us.
What do you know about us? About me?
I know that you are smarter than this.
Really? Guess what? We're shitty people, Joel. It's been that way for a long time.
No, we are survivors.
This is our chance.
It is over, Tess! Now, we tried. Let's just go home.
I'm not going anywhere. This is my last stop.
What?
Our luck had to run out sooner or later.
You going on?
No, don't! Don't touch me.
Holy shit. She's infected.
Joel,
Let me see.
I didn't mean for this.
Show it to me. Oh, Christ.
Oops, right? Give me your arm. This was 3 weeks. I was bitten an hour ago, and it's already worse. This is fucking real, Joel. You've got to get this girl to Tommy's. He used to run with this crew. He'll know where to go.
No, that was your crusade. I am not doing that.
Yes, you are. Look, there's enough here that you have to feel some sort of obligation to me, so you get her to Tommy's. They're here.
Damn it.
I can buy you some time, but you have to run.
You want us to just leave you here?
Yes.
There is no way that...
I will not turn into one of those things. Come on. Make this easy for me.
I can find...
No, just go! Just fucking go.
Ellie,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this.
get a move on.
We know you're in there. Drop your weapons and come out with your hands up.
Ellie and Joel make their escape from the Capitol building and the military looking for them. Joel witnesses further evidence of Ellie's immunity as she freely breathes in the parasitic spores that would easily infect anyone else. After they successfully elude the guards, Ellie tries to apologize to Joel, but he snaps at her. He tells her not to talk about Tess and says that he's setting some ground rules for her. To first not talk about her condition to anyone, and to do whatever he tells her when he tells her. Joel says that there's a town a little ways away where a man named Bill lives that owes him a favor, and that they might be able to get a vehicle from him to make it to Tommy's with. While making their way through the town, Ellie is inquisitive and enamored with the culture of the old world, and we see a bit of rapport established between Joel and Ellie. On the way to Bill's, they have to avoid all of his booby traps, but as luck would have it, eventually Joel falls victim to one of them. As he's strung up, the infected arrive, and Joel has to take them out upside down while Ellie works on cutting him loose. Eventually, Bill himself arrives, and the three of them make it back to safety.
Man, that was close. Thanks for the heroics and all. Ellie. Hey, what are you... Joel?
Bill!
What are you doing?
Bill! Turn around and get on your knees.
Just calm down a second.
Turn around
All right.
and get on your knees. Don't test me. Just
Take it easy.
any bites. Oh. Anything sprouting?
Oh, God damn it, I'm clean!
If I see so much as a twitch. Ow!
Stop!
Son of a bitch!
You done?
Am I done? You come into my house, you set off all my traps, you damn near break my shooting arm. Who the fuck is this punk and what's she doing here?
I am none of your goddamn business, and we're here because you owe Joel some favors. And you can start by taking these off.
I owe Joel some favors. Is some kind of joke?
I'll cut to the chase. I need a car.
Well, it is a joke. Joel needs a car. Well, if I had one that works, which I sure as hell don't, what makes you think I'd just give it to you? Huh? Yeah, sure, Joel, go ahead. Take my car. Take all my food, too, while you're at it.
By the looks of it, you could lose some of that food.
You listen to me, you little shit.
No, fuck you! You handcuffed
I
me.
need you to shut up. All right?
Whatever favors you think I owe you ain't worth that much.
Actually, Bill, they are.
Well, it don't matter, because I don't have a car that works.
But there is one in this town.
Parts. There are parts in this town.
Meaning that you could fix one up.
All right. If I'm gonna do this, there's some gear I'm gonna need.
All right.
It's on the other side of town. Now you help me go gather it, and maybe I can put something together that runs. But after this, I owe you nothing.
That's fine. A couple days from now, we'll probably be dead anyway.
Good. Follow me. Whole goddamn town's booby trapped. Best stay right on my ass.
Can't miss it.
Knock it off.
The group heads over to Bill's armory to gather some supplies. Bill says a military convoy rolled through town recently but was attacked by the infected. One of the trucks crashed into the side of the high school and it's still there. They can use the battery from it to power a vehicle for Joel and Ellie. Ellie argues with Joel for a gun, saying that she can be useful to the group with it, but Joel tells her no. After they finish gearing up, the group heads to the high school to retrieve the battery. At the school, they have to fight their way through the infected, and once inside, they have to bar the doors to keep the infected out. But when Bill opens the hood of the truck, he finds it empty. The battery has already been taken by someone else. The infected are starting to close in around them, and Joel asks Bill what Plan B is, to which he replies there is no Plan B. The group then runs away into the town to hide from the incoming infected. As it so happens, the house they hold away in is the resting spot of Bill's old partner as they find him hanging from the ceiling. Apparently, he had gotten bitten and decided this was a better way to go out. Luckily for them, however, Ellie finds a truck in the garage that is almost starting on its own. It was Bill's old partner who took the battery from the truck at the school and put it into this one. They'll need to give it a running jump to get it started. Joel asks Ellie if she's okay with driving and cranking the key while Joel and Bill push, to which she agrees. Joel takes a moment to tell Ellie that he wants her to know she's doing a good job, and we can see the bond between the two strengthened. Joel and Bill push the truck down the street and it's enough to get it started. They drop Bill off away down the road and continue their venture to Tommy's. As they're on this long road trip, we see Joel and Ellie bonding even further, and it's important to note on this unlikely bond between these two characters as time goes on. The pair make it to Pittsburgh when they run into a backed-up highway leading into the city. Joel seeks an alternative path, but they end up wrecking their vehicle when they're ambushed by a group of cannibalistic bandits. Joel fights these thugs off, and he and Ellie continue making their way through Pittsburgh on foot. They are pursued by these thugs throughout the whole city, avoiding them when they can and fighting them when they have to, all while trying to make it to the bridge out of the city. While cutting through a hotel, Joel and Ellie are separated when Joel falls down an elevator shaft. And while making his way back to Ellie, Joel is taken off guard by one of the thugs. But fortunately, Ellie shows up in time to grab Joel's gun off the ground and shoots the attacker, saving Joel's life. Joel, with his very prideful and hardened demeanor, doesn't thank Ellie. Rather, he tells her she shouldn't be playing with guns. This would change later, however, when their only way through was blocked by a large group of bandits. Joel hands Ellie a rifle and tells her he'll need her help to keep him covered and to make every shot count. He thanks her in his own Joel-like way for saving him earlier, and together the two take out the bandits barring their way through. Afterwards, Joel takes back the rifle from Ellie but gives her her own pistol that she can keep, his way of letting her know that she's doing good and that he trusts her. Making their way further through the city, they run into two others who aren't a part of the bandit group in the area. A man named Henry and his younger brother Sam. Henry says it's not safe here, but they can talk back at their hideout. And on the way, they cut through a toy store, and Sam tries to put a toy robot into his backpack, but Henry tells him no. He says that their rule is that they only take what they need. Once at the hideout, Henry tells Joel that they're looking for a Firefly camp to join up with them, and that there's an abandoned military radio tower just outside the city that the rest of his group is supposed to meet there tomorrow. He says that there's a group of bandits guarding the bridge, but at nighttime it's down to a skeleton crew. The two groups decide to work together as their mutual interests align. Nighttime falls and the group heads out towards the bridge. They take care of the bandits guarding it and begin making their escape, climbing over the fence on top of a nearby cargo truck. Joel waits for everyone else to climb atop the truck, but as Ellie does, the ladder breaks off. Henry looks down at Joel and simply apologizes and says to Ellie and Sam that they gotta get out of here as the bandit reinforcements are bearing down on them. As Henry and Sam run off, Ellie refuses and jumps back down to the ground with Joel and says that we stick together, and the two seek an alternate escape. Once they make their way to the bridge, they find that it is mostly collapsed and broken, with nowhere to go except into the water below. Ellie says that they need to jump for it as the bandits are hot on their trail, but Joel says it's too risky since Ellie can't swim, that they need to find another way. But before Joel can protest further, Ellie tells him that there's no time and jumps into the river below, which prompts Joel to jump in after her. Joel wraps Ellie in his arms and swims to the surface, but being pulled downstream, Joel is thrown into a large piece of debris and knocked out. He awakens sometime later on a beach with Ellie, Henry, and Sam. At first, Joel is enraged and pulls his gun out on Henry, but Henry tells him that he didn't have a choice, and that Joel would have done the same thing in his position to save Ellie. Ellie tells Joel that if it weren't for Henry pulling them both from the water, they would be dead, so Joel puts his anger aside, and together they make their way towards the radio station. On the way, they cut through a suburban area and are attacked by infected and more bandits. Eventually, though, they fight their way through the adversity and make it to the radio station.
You're okay.
Still in here. Anybody hurt?
No, we're good.
I think it's time we quit this place. Come on.
Let's go. Shut the hell up.
Dead serious. It's Tommy's birthday, and that's all he wanted to do is just rent 2 Harleys and drive cross country.
Oh, man. I could die happy if I could just ride one around the block. What was it like?
It was good. It was real good.
Good? Can you believe this guy? Come on, man, give me details. Describe it.
You know what? You two deserve a little privacy.
No, Ellie. This isn't just any regular motorcycle, okay? You get on that bad boy, you feel that engine? Nothing like it.
Oh, yeah? How would you know?
Seen it in my dreams.
Okay.
I don't think anyone from my group is gonna show up.
Yeah.
Worst part about it all, explaining it to Sam.
Well, it's safe to say those two have officially bonded. What are you doing?
Taking stock of all the food we found today.
I see. And how are we doing on canned peaches?
Did Henry send you?
No? Why would Henry send me?
To make sure I'm not fucking up somehow.
I'd say we all did pretty good back there. Especially you. Is everything all right?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Okay. Well, have a good night.
How is it that you're never scared?
Who says that I'm not?
What are you scared of?
Let's see. Scorpions are pretty creepy. Being by myself. I'm scared of ending up alone. What about you?
Those things out there. What if the people are still inside? What if they're trapped in there without any control of their body? Scared of that happening to me.
Okay. First of all, we're a team now. Okay, we're gonna help each other out. And second, they might still look like people, but that person is not in there anymore.
Henry says that they've moved on. That they're with their families, like in heaven. Do you think that's true?
I go back and forth. I mean, I'd like to believe it.
But you don't.
I guess not.
Yeah. Me neither.
Oh. All the serious talk. I almost forgot. There. If he doesn't know about it, he can't take it away. All right. I'm pooped. I'll see you tomorrow. Damn, that smells good.
Good morning.
Where's Sam?
I let him sleep in for once.
Oh,
Well, if you want him to join us, you can go wake his ass up.
okay. Sam?
The hell? Shit, he's turning! That's my fucking brother! Screw it!
Shit!
Ellie? Ellie, are you alright?
Oh my god.
Sam?
Oh no.
Sam? Henry? Ellie, stay there. Henry? What have you done? I'm gonna get that gun from you, okay? Oh, okay, easy.
It's your fault.
This is nobody's fault, Henry.
It's all your fault.
Henry! Henry, no!
Our story picks back up in autumn as Joel and Ellie have made their way into Jackson County, close to Tommy's. We can hear through conversations Ellie and Joel have while traveling that their relationship has grown even further in the months that were unseen. The pair run into a power plant that they'll have to get through to get to Tommy's and are surprised to find it occupied when they're held at gunpoint. Lucky for them though, it's Tommy and his people and they're welcomed into the plant. Tommy gives Joel a tour around the power plant, telling him how his people are trying to get it running again so that they have electricity. He tells Joel he went back to Texas a while ago and tries to give Joel a photo of him and Sarah that he got from his house while he was there. Joel refuses to take it. He's really not a talk about or acknowledge your feelings kind of guy. Joel tells Tommy about everything that's happened to him over the past few months and why he's with the girl, how she's immune, and how she needs to get to the Fireflies. He tells Tommy that since he used to be a Firefly, he needs to take Ellie to them. He says that Tommy needs to do this for him. The two get a little heated and Tommy says that he and his group have families now and that's their priority and that he's not going to take Ellie to the Fireflies for him. It's then that the power plant comes under attack by a group of bandits, so Joel goes with Tommy to help out. After the fighting is done, Joel finds Ellie and looks over her, asking if she's alright, if she's hurt. Tommy sees this and sees that his brother cares about this girl, and is probably trying to distance himself from her as early as possible to not get too attached emotionally to Ellie so as to not feel any of the similar emotions he felt losing Sarah if anything were to happen to her, but I'm not a psychologist. Anyway, Tommy agrees to take Ellie to the Fireflies even though his wife Maria disagrees with him, but he tells Joel he'll do it either way. But Ellie overheard this conversation and ran off with one of the group's horses, so Joel and Tommy set off to track her down. Sometime later, they find Ellie's horse tied up outside an old ranch home and find her sitting upstairs.
Is this really all they had to worry about? Boys, movies, deciding which shirt goes with which skirt. It's bizarre.
Get up. We're leaving. Come on.
And if I say no?
Do you even realize what your life means? Huh? Running off like that, putting yourself at risk? It's pretty goddamn stupid.
Well, I guess we're both disappointed with each other then.
What do you want from me?
Admit that you wanted to get rid of me the whole time.
Tommy knows this area
Oh,
better
fuck
than...
that.
Well, I'm sorry. I trust him better than I trust myself.
Stop with the bullshit. What are you so afraid of? That I'm gonna end up like Sam? I can't get infected. I can take care of myself.
How many close calls have we had?
Well, we seem to be doing all right so far.
And now you'll be doing even better with Tommy.
Not her, you know.
What?
Maria told me about Sarah.
Ellie?
And
You are treading on some mighty thin ice here.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel. But I have lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone fucking except for you. So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
You're right. You're not my daughter. And I sure as hell ain't your dad. And we are going our separate ways.
Get it together. We're not alone.
After a quiet ride back to Tommy's group, they stop on the hill overlooking the town, and we see Joel have a change of heart. He asks Tommy where the Firefly lab is. Tommy replies that it's at the University of Eastern Colorado in the science building. Joel tells Ellie to hand Tommy the reins of the horse she took and to climb on up with him. Tommy asks Joel if he's sure, and he tells him that his mind is made up. Tommy tells them that they always have a place here, and Joel and Ellie ride off together as they should be. An unspecified amount of time later, we see Ellie and Joel riding onto the campus of the University of Eastern Colorado. And once they make it into the science building, they don't find any fireflies. Instead, they find a lone dead firefly next to a recorder. Joel fast forwards through all this dude's monologues and learns that the fireflies are continuing their work at St. Mary's Hospital in Salt Lake City. Before they exit the science building, however, they are yet again ambushed by bandits. What are the odds, right? While fighting these bandits, Joel is badly injured when falling from the second story and being impaled on a piece of metal. Ellie helps him up and they struggle to get back to the horse, and once they finally do, they escape the campus. But soon after, we see Joel fall from the horse unconscious. He's still badly injured and things aren't looking great. We hear Ellie in a panic, not knowing what to do, as the screen fades to black. Pick our story back up in winter with a land fully covered in snow. We see Ellie alone hunting a rabbit, and as she goes to collect the rabbit, she sees a deer and decides to hunt that instead. After tracking the deer in between shooting it with a few arrows, Ellie finally finds her quarry dead in the snow. As she goes to the deer, she runs into two other men, David and James. She holds her bow on them as they tell her they're from a larger group with women and children and that their people are hungry and perhaps they can trade for the deer. Ellie says that she'll trade it for some antibiotics, and David sends James back to the camp to get some. Ellie takes David's rifle and the two hole up in a nearby shack with the deer to wait for James to get back. While waiting, David tells Ellie that it's fate that they met here. He says he knows the antibiotics have to be for someone not with her, someone who's injured. He says that a little while back he sent some of his men out for supplies, but a lot of them were killed by a man traveling with a young girl. He gives off super creeper vibes, but insists he's not mad at Ellie, that it isn't her fault, and wants her to come back to the camp and live with them. James finally returns with the antibiotics and gives them to Ellie even though he's angry with her, but David calms him down and Ellie runs off with the medicine. We see Ellie arrive at a house in a nearby town, and inside is a sick and wounded Joel who seems to be barely clinging to life. Ellie gives Joel the antibiotics and covers him up as the two drift off to sleep. Ellie wakes up in the morning to the sound of people outside the house. She curses herself when she realizes it's David and his bandits, and she no doubt was tracked here, in a ploy that was likely meant for them to find and kill Joel. Ellie decides that the best course of action is to lead them away from Joel, so she takes off from the house, pushing further into town, fighting the bandits along the way. Eventually, David catches up to her and renders her unconscious. Ellie awakens sometime later and finds herself locked in a cage where she can see David chopping up some human meat, because it's not an apocalypse without cannibalism. David tells her that he still wants her to be a part of their camp and tries to get her to open up to him so that he can convince the others to let her stay. She refuses to do so, but she does pretend to, just to lure David close enough to the cage for her to attack him and try to get the keys off of him. However, her gambit, which is just so quintessentially Ellie, fails. It's then that our story picks back up with Joel. Through the power of video game medicine, we see him at the house Ellie brought him to as he's getting to his feet and calling out for her. He grabs his gear and heads outside to look for her. As he does, he runs into a group of bandits that stayed behind. He ends up taking two of them hostage and interrogates them in a nearby house, figuring that with Ellie missing and the bandits nearby that they had to have taken her. Joel is really in no mood as he beats and carves the man into submission. He gets the info he needs on the whereabouts of Ellie and then kills the two men and heads that way. Our story heads back over to Ellie as David drags her out of the cage and puts her up onto the chopping table. Just before he begins carving up Ellie for meat, she shouts that she's infected and tells them to check her arm. They roll up her sleeve and see the bite mark, and in that moment of their confusion, Ellie uses it to escape and run away. She flees through the blizzard raging outside, weaving in and out of the buildings in the bandits' town, but eventually she's trapped inside what looks to be an old restaurant, just her and David. We briefly pan over to Joel to see him making his way through the same blizzard in the same town, looking for Ellie. Ellie and David's fight draws towards its conclusion as they both lay on the floor hurt. Ellie crawls towards a machete on the floor just out of her reach, but David gets up and kicks her back over. Through her sheer force of will, she battles through the pain and keeps crawling. David decides that he's had enough and gets on top of her and begins to choke her to death. But Ellie's willpower is not something to be underestimated, as she's finally able to reach the machete. She swings it at David, knocking him off of her, and then proceeds to Mel Gibson circa 2000 him into a bloody pulp. It's then that Joel shows up and pulls Ellie off of David, and once she realizes it's Joel, they embrace each other, as they're both kind of an emotional mess. The screen fades to black once more, and we pick back up in spring. We see the unlikely duo has made their way to Salt Lake City and are close to St. Mary's Hospital. Making their way through the city, the two share a moment when they come across a herd of giraffes within the city. A scene that really highlights the beauty of what can come from the apocalypse, and they both take a minute to just breathe it in. Ellie stops Joel and tells him that she stole this from the power plant and hands Joel the picture of him and Sarah he initially refused. This time he accepts it and thanks her, in a moment that really solidifies the bond between these two and how far they've come and what they've been through together. The trip through the city is not without its hardships though, as the two find themselves dragged underwater in an underground tunnel. Ellie of course cannot swim, and Joel sees her unconscious body sinking in the water. He grabs her and swims his way to the surface, but she isn't breathing. He begins CPR on her and pleads with her to wake up. A couple of armed men show up and try to hold Joel up. He tells them no and mostly ignores them because he's obviously trying to save Ellie's life, but that doesn't stop one of the men from walking up to Joel and knocking him out with the butt of his gun. Joel wakes up sometime later in a bed at St. Mary's Hospital and sees Marlene sitting next to him. She tells him she can't believe that they actually made it here. Joel tells Marlene that he wants to see Ellie, but she says he can't because she's getting prepped for surgery. Joel asks what she means by surgery, and Marlene tells him that the growth inside Ellie mutated, and they think that's why she's immune. And if the doctors remove that growth, they can use it to reverse engineer a vaccine. Joel confusedly replies, "But it grows on the brain," to which Marlene sadly replies that she knows. Joel tells her to find someone else, but she retorts that there is no one else. Joel is having absolutely none of that, and John wicks his ass through the fireflies until he gets to Ellie. He picks her up off the table and carries her away. As he does, he's confronted by Marlene, who tries to talk Joel out of it, saying it's the right thing to do for humanity. Joel doesn't care to listen, and is only concerned with saving Ellie's life, so he shoots Marlene and puts Ellie in one of the Firefly's vehicles. He walks back over to finish Marlene, and she pleads for her life, for him to let her go. Joel retorts, "You'd just come after her," and puts a bullet in Marlene's head. As they're driving away, Ellie wakes up in the back seat and asks Joel what happened. He tells her that they found the Fireflies, and that there were actually a lot of people like her, immune. But it hasn't done them any good, and that the Fireflies have stopped looking for a cure. Ellie rolls over disappointed, or in grief. She wanted her life and the sacrifices she made to mean something more. A classic case of survivor's guilt. The pair make their way back to Tommy's to settle down and make a life for themselves there. And as they approach the town, Ellie reaches out to Joel.
Hey, wait. Back in Boston? Back when I was bitten? I wasn't alone. My best friend was there. And she got bit too. We didn't know what to do. So... she says... let's just wait it out. You know, we can be all poetic and just lose our minds together. I'm still waiting for my turn.
Ellie.
Her name was Riley, and she was the first to die. And then it was Tess. And then Sam.
None of that is on you.
Oh, you don't understand.
I struggled for a long time with surviving. And you... no matter what, you keep finding something to fight for. Now, I know that's not what you want to hear right now.
Swear to me. Swear to me that everything that you've said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.
Okay.
And that's the last we'll hear of Ellie and Joel, at least for quite a few years.
I know you wish things were different. I wish things were different. Ellie! But they ain't.
Please stop. I'm leaving tomorrow.
To do this smart, we'd be leaving Jackson vulnerable.
So they just get to get away with this?
How'd you find us?
You can't stop this.
I want what you want. But not at any cost. I really hope you make it.
I have to finish it.
There's a cost.
We could have killed you. Maybe you should have.
PlayStation